Hello, everybody.
That was great.
Was it?
Yeah, I like the fact that you backed away from the mic as you got louder. That's
I'm
that's
starting to
pro.
be a professional now.
Yeah.
For this amateur, blowing out your ears, redlining it. Is that what they call it in the business? Redlining it?
Yeah, peaking. It's peaking, like hitting up at the highest levels.
Sure.
Hitting the red.
Hitting the red. Hertz. Is it hertz?
VU, volume units.
What are ohms? Is that
ohms? That's an electrical thing.
Oh, yeah. Okay, volume units.
Yeah, the VU meter. It's called a VU meter, and if it's in the red, then it starts to get a little crackly. You want to be around -6, -12.
Okay, well, welcome to another episode of Dirt Nav City. My name is Alex. I'm here with my friend Kelly. How you doing, Kelly?
I'm doing well. I'm glad that we're here doing this today. I decided to get a little dressed up for you and, put myself in my podcasting place.
Yeah,
you like it?
Thanks for the dressing up. Got a nice suit and tie today. I see that.
And another look like our award show with our 100 best.
Yeah. Now that I'm looking closer, that is a T-shirt that looks like a suit.
Right, with the sleeves cut off. The huge.
The huge. This is a podcast about interesting dead people.
That's right.
And we're well past our 100 episodes, and we're getting to the we're still on famous people though. It's going to be a while before we get to the non-famous people, I think.
Right. And I think that's a natural evolution, right? People want to hear about just average Joes. Yeah. That's we'll have to change the tagline probably.
Sure. Like I said, we'll get to everyone eventually. Just, wait your turn, but we're going to concentrate on some famous folks for now. There's a lot of dead people.
There are a lot of dead people.
And more added every day. That's
the beauty of it.
Well, wow. Never thought about it that way, that it's that people dying is just more content for us.
Yeah, exactly. We're all about the content. If it takes people dying to get it, then so be it.
Well, I'm going to talk about somebody today who is exactly in our wheelhouse. Kind of surprised we haven't done him yet.
Okay.
White guy from the 20th century, icon. Not that we're restricting ourselves to white guys. It's but you do what you know best, and we're a couple old white guys, so it would be only natural that we lean that way. But this guy's an icon.
Okay.
Born in 1922 in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay.
Died in 2000 in Santa Rosa, California.
Santa Rosa. Is that near Los Angeles?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
They make him 78 years old?
When he died, yeah.
Okay.
And right now is the 75th anniversary of his the work that he's known for the most.
75 years of the work. You mean specifically his work or just that type of work?
Yeah. His invention or his work. I don't know. It's not an invention.
Was he an artist?
Yes.
Okay.
But sure, an artist. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, loosely defined. I mean, you wouldn't probably see his stuff primarily in galleries, although there's probably galleries that have his stuff more commercially available. I guarantee you've held several of his drawings in your hand.
I've held his. Oh, okay. Did he draw on money or something like that? Or
No, not money. But
drew on newspapers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
it's a cartoon. Is it Charles Schulz?
You got it, man.
Hey,
good one.
All
yeah.
Right.
He didn't go by Charles or Charlie.
He went by Chuck.
He went by Sparky.
Sparky. Charles Schulz, aka Sparky.
He was an only child, and his nickname was Sparky.
Okay.
And his uncle gave him that name. after a comic strip. There was a comic strip with a horse, and the horse's name was Sparkplug.
Oh,
And
I like that.
The comic strip was called Barney Google.
Barney Google. All right.
Have you ever heard of Barney Google?
No, I've heard of those things individually, but not together as one thing.
Apparently, Barney Google was really, really popular.
Okay.
Back in the day, back in the 1920s, and that comic still exists. Although it's kind of one of the lesser characters have taken over now in this comic strip. The lesser character's name is Snuffy Smith.
Snuffy Smith.
Snuffy Smith?
Nah. Huh. No. No.
Well, the comic is still running. It's been running for 100 years now, since 1919. Snuffy Smith is the main character now. But that only makes it the third longest running comic. There's 2 comics that have been running longer than this Snuffy Smith.
Wow.
And they sound, when you say them, it's like, yeah, I've heard of that, but I'm not a really big comic guy. The Cats and Jammer Kids.
Never heard of that one. Cats
Really?
and Jammer Kids. Okay. Is that like
And,
the Little Rascals kind of thing?
I mean, it's a comic strip. So, and Gasoline Alley. You ever heard of Gasoline Alley?
Yes, I've seen that one. That's been around forever.
But Barney Google was so popular that they say he was the inspiration. That character was the inspiration for the number Google, which is just the really big, like the biggest number that you can
One with
write
100 zeros after it is what a Google is.
And a Google was the inspiration for the company Google. So in a way, Barney Google was the inspiration, was the forerunner to the company we know as Google right now.
Okay. Barney Google.
So Charles Schulz, we'll call him Sparky from here on out because he really hated his name. He never really answered to Charles or Chuck or Charlie or anything.
No derivatives of Charles.
No. In fact, Charlie Brown wasn't even named after him. It was named after one of his friends. He grew up telling people he was going to be a famous cartoonist one day, but he wasn't he wasn't arrogant or cocky. He just was really focused. So he just had a hunch that if he just kept at it, that he would be famous someday. He was a smart kid. He skipped 2.5 grades. That's a lot.
That is a lot. How do you skip half a grade? That's a weird one. I could see 2 or 3, but 2.5.
I guess maybe you finish the first semester and then you just skip right to the next grade.
Okay.
At Christmas time or something. But when he was younger, he drew a picture of his dog. His dog's name was Spike. If you remember, Snoopy's, was it his alter ego?
Yeah, I guess his
friend or something was named Spike.
I mean, I know he pretended to be the Red Baron a lot. That's a good question. I don't remember.
There was another dog named Spike in there.
Yeah.
Anyways, he drew a picture of his dog who kind of looked like Snoopy, though he wasn't the same. He was a pointer, not a beagle. But he sent it to Ripley's Believe It or Not. And I guess they used to have comics strips or books or something. And Ripley's published it and said, this is a hunting dog that eats pins, tacks, and razor blades, is owned by C.F. Schulz, St. Paul, Minnesota, and drawn by Sparky. That was kind of his first publication.
Wow.
When he created Snoopy, he wanted to call it Sniffy.
Yeah, that's not as good.
Well, someone else had used Sniffy, so he had to use his second choice called Snoopy. But yeah, I feel like Sniffy wouldn't have made it. Like
Sniffy sounds like sort of. I'm just reminded of tissues immediately.
Well, and again, if his favorite comic was Snuffy Smith, Sniffy's a little too close to Snuffy.
Right.
And again, it sounds sick.
It does.
Snoopy's a good name, though.
It is. I've often wondered if Snoop Dogg was inspired by Snoopy.
Well, it was. Snoop Dogg was named that way because because of the way he looked when he was growing up. So I think his family named him Snoop.
Okay.
Calvin Broadus, but he's not dead, so we can't talk about him.
Right.
Sparky's high school yearbook rejected his drawings.
Really? Which he was probably going to give them for free.
Yeah, of course. Now they have like a big statue, like a 5 foot tall statue of Snoopy in the lobby of the high school.
Sure, sure.
But at the time, they rejected his drawings, and that's kind of a theme of this guy. You know, the thing I want to talk about and just think about when you think about Sparky Schulz is just kind of how before people talked openly about anxieties and insecurities and those things that we carry with us. He was out there with his characters kind of showing things like insecurity. And he had a lot of them. He had a lot of neuroses. But that was, that was one of his first big setbacks, was when his high school wouldn't even publish his drawings. And he kind of took these things and internalized them and brought them out in his work. So he worked at a place called Art Instruction Inc. And he didn't work there long, but a lot of his friends and coworkers there became inspirations for his characters along the way. Then World War II broke out. Kind of towards the end of the war, he was drafted into the army, and he was a squad leader on a machine gun team in Europe.
Wow.
But he wasn't very good at it. He would tell you he wasn't very good at it. He only had one opportunity to fire the machine guns, and he forgot to load the machine gun. And there was a German soldier standing there. And luckily for him, the soldier surrendered before he realized that he'd forgot to load the gun.
You know what he probably said? Probably said, "Good grief."
There you go. And good grief, another example of like just kind of showing your neuroses, right?
Sparky, you blockhead.
Sparky was kind of a blockhead when it came to fighting. So when he came home from the war, he published his cartoons in a book, an anti-communist comic book. I remember this is, the mid 40s. And the book was called Is This Tomorrow? And there was a panel. It was a single panel strip, kind of like Family Circus, right?
Yeah.
You have some one panel strips.
You got one chance to be funny.
Yeah. And the joke, the one panel jokes, and the comic strip was called Lil Folks.
LIL?
Of course.
Okay.
Lil Folks. And that was kind of the beginning of the what was later known as Peanuts. A lot of the characters were the same, or at least Charlie Brown was introduced. There was a dog that looked like Snoopy. He was called Rover.
Okay.
They talked about Beethoven a lot.
Yeah.
But the primary thing that was the same was it was kids saying things that were kind of above their years, or things that adults might say, right? And I think that's the main takeaway from the Peanuts comic strip. When you think about it, it was kids saying things that kids wouldn't say, using big words and talking about, things that adults kind of say.
And this was Lil Folks.
Lil Folks.
Okay.
He got paid $10 per submission. Charlie Brown was introduced as a character in 1948.
Okay. And
named after a coworker of his at the art instruction place, named Charlie Brown. That comic ran from he took it out of the from that Is This Tomorrow magazine to his hometown paper, the St. Paul Pioneer Press, and ran from 1947 to 1950. And then he shopped it around and went to work for United Feature Syndicate.
Oh yeah, yeah,
it's yeah.
Big,
you see
that
time. You see that at the bottom of those strips all the time. That was in 1950, but because he was moving it for legal reasons, they had to change the name. They couldn't use Lil Folks anymore. The St. Paul paper owned it, so the United Feature Syndicate changed the name to Peanuts, which he didn't really, Sparky didn't have a say in at all.
Yeah.
In fact, he hated the name.
I mean, it seems to match because we're used to it. It's what we grew up with, right? But
I never call it Peanuts.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody does. People call it Charlie Brown. People call it Snoopy.
Yeah.
I think his hunch was right. Nobody calls it Peanuts, really. It's like the official name, but, you might say, who's your favorite Peanuts character? But then people go, what's Peanuts?
Yeah.
he hated it. He said it sounded trivial, or he said, I don't want people to think this is about food.
And also he wanted to get paid more than that, right? I mean, when they say they're going to pay you in peanuts, that usually means you're not getting paid very well.
And boy, did he get paid well eventually. At its apex, Peanuts was published daily in 2,600 newspapers in 75 countries.
Wow.
In 21 different languages. And in the 50 years that he drew it, he drew almost 18,000 published strips, producing $1 billion in revenue a year.
A year?
A year.
Wow.
He was taking in like 30 to 40 million a year. Wow. Which sounds like a small percentage of $1 billion, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But I guess that billion was spread out across all those different,
that's
newspapers.
3 to 4% goes to him.
Wow, that's amazing.
It doesn't seem. Yeah, he only took one vacation in his 50 years. For his 75th birthday in 1997, he took a 5-week break, and the papers ran like reruns, basically, or like a best of kind of things.
Yeah.
That was the only vacation he ever took in his life.
So is Peanuts still published today?
They show in a lot of papers papers aren't doing that great anymore, but yeah, they put the old ones on there.
But there's no new ones. They're not.
No, in fact, as a condition, he put in his I guess he put it in his will. He said, nobody can draw this once I'm gone. Nobody can take it over. I own this. I'm taking it to the grave with me.
Right.
In terms of comic strips. Now, since he never considered the other media, like movies and TV specials, the same as comic strips, so they are making new ones. I think there's a new one coming on Apple TV called something about Franklin. Remember Franklin?
Yeah, I remember Franklin. He was representative character in the otherwise mostly white group.
Yeah, so Franklin was introduced right after, like weeks after MLK was assassinated.
Okay.
So he introduces this African American character, but never did much with him. He was never the center of any story. He was just kind of there. So this Sparky was, he was ahead of the curve. He was, I guess you could say, he was progressive on some of the things, but this is, slow progression through a white Midwesterner's
point of view
lens.
Yeah.
So like you've got Franklin, but you're not doing anything with him. And there's a famous cell, I guess, what you call those pictures, right? When we talked about some of these other things, we talked about how those are called cells, right?
Yeah.
And there's a famous one of like all the kids in the lunchroom and Franklin sitting at a table by himself.
Wow. And that was just drawn that way. I
don't think it was Sparky. I don't know. I don't think Sparky was trying to say it should be that way. Maybe he was saying it is that way, or maybe he was just drawing. Who knows? He never really addressed those kind of things.
Gotcha.
But it was out there, and he was criticized. Well, he's criticized now for that kind of thing. But maybe he was trying to make a commentary. Like, if you notice this, then you should do something about this or something. Or
but he drew that cell. He drew that frame.
Yeah, but he didn't like draw it as a standalone. Like it wasn't a one strip thing.
Part of that would be some other. It was part of some other longer cartoon, and people just took that one and said, "Look at this segregation going on."
Now, man, if that had been a single cell comic strip, that would have almost been like a political cartoon, right?
Yeah.
You just draw a single cell of a bunch of kids but it wasn't, like you said. So those kind of things he was ahead of the curve on. I mean, there wasn't any other comics that even had African American characters. So in a way, he was ahead of the curve. But like I say, he didn't do anything with it. Right now, there's a special coming out in 2025 about Franklin. It took, 75 years for him to get his own special. But yeah, that's part of the legacy,
So now they are also MetLife, right? The Peanuts are sort of the mascots for MetLife.
Yeah, they're licensed as MetLife.
Are they?
license them. And also, I think Six Flags also has like Camp Snoopy.
Oh, really?
They started off at Knott's Berry Farm,
Okay.
and now I think Six Flags has them, and they have the Bugs Bunny characters, and they're allowed to run around in mascot costumes. So all that stuff is licensed. Nobody can draw new comic strips.
So did you watch the seasonal or holiday specials that would come out?
You know, I watched the two big ones, the Charlie Brown Christmas
and the
which was
Great Pumpkin.
Yeah, and the Great Pumpkin. Charlie Brown Christmas actually came out in 1965.
Wow.
And that's the kind of thing it's always around. You don't know when it came out. You might have thought it came out later than that.
Yeah, it was just always there. And in the days before video on demand, when you had to actually catch it at a time that it was going to play, I can remember as a kid hearing, watching NBC or whatever in Houston, and it would say, "Oh, this Thursday we're going to play the Charlie Brown Christmas special," and we would make an appointment. We would book time to watch it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Let's talk about some of the characters. You remember the little red-haired girl?
Yeah, that was who Charlie Brown had a crush on.
He had a crush on her, and it was kind of unrequited, right? Like she didn't know he existed,
right,
or she didn't like him back. That's based on a real life person, and it was a really big moment in his life. I mean, a big thing that she was a coworker of his at that
art
school. She was an accountant, actually, and he got up enough nerve to ask her to marry him, and she turned him down.
Well, wait. So he asked her to marry him, but that seems like skipping over a lot. Like, how about let's go out for coffee first?
Right. In fact, he was so clueless about it. The reason she turned him down is she was already engaged to somebody else.
And he didn't know it.
No, he didn't know it.
Wow.
Now that's a blockhead move, right?
That is a blockhead move. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, you can see like the direct line between him and those characters. Like, he's so brilliant that he skips 2.5 grades, but not with
smart
it enough.
Yeah.
That's so weird. On Valentine's Day in 2011, the Charles Schulz Museum in Minneapolis gave free admission to all redheads.
Nice.
But apparently this was a really big moment. Like he said, that was the only, I mean, he's married twice, and he still talked about this lady as the only true love he ever had. And that it was the worst day of his life when she turned him down. Like, it was the one that got away or whatever. The real lady, poor thing, she had to live with this. Once he kind of outed her as the lady, she kind of had to always apologize for.
Do you have her name? Do you have her name?
Her name was I do.
Is she still alive?
She died.
And did she die of a broken heart is the question.
She wasn't into him.
Well, before he was famous and rich, she wasn't, but after
she was no gold digger or anything.
No? All right.
No, she her name was Donna Mae Johnson.
Donna Mae with a hyphen?
No.
Oh.
Three words. She actually died in 2016. But there's some people that say that they were romantically involved and they dated for 3 years. But if that's the case, then how is she engaged to somebody else? I don't really understand it. Yeah, I don't really get that part.
Maybe it's better we just leave that a mystery.
Yeah, but this Donna Mae Johnson, like I said, kind of outed who she was, so she was kind of a public person in a way, for a while. Isn't that kind of weird?
Yeah. To be well, especially for that, right? That's just a really weird thing to be known for.
Well, they would remain friends for the rest of his life. And he said, "I can think of no more emotionally damaging loss than to be turned down by someone who you love very much. A person who not only turns you down, but almost immediately will marry the victor. What a bitter blow that is." Like, that's crazy. Right?
Yeah, I mean, you're hearing one side of it there, right? You're just hearing his butthurt side.
Yeah, maybe. Like I said, they were friends his whole life. She was a small town Minnesota girl.
Yeah.
I wonder if her husband, the guy that she actually did marry, I wonder if he was like, please don't talk to me about peanuts. I'm done with that.
Right. I would be if I was him.
You wouldn't want to talk about it, or would you want to talk about it?
Maybe once, but not like bring it up at every party we go to or be known for it.
Somebody said, tell us a fun fact about yourself. Be like, I married the little redheaded girl.
Right. My wife was the one who broke Charles Schulz's or Sparky's heart.
My wife chose me over a billionaire.
Yeah.
Linus, remember Linus?
Yeah, with the blanket.
Yeah, Linus was named after his Sparky's best friend.
Okay.
And they were friends his whole life. They were friends even in his later years. They would go out for coffee like every day. Him and Linus. Linus was another fellow cartoonist. I think at that art institute, he ended up being a political cartoonist. In the comic, do you remember what Linus's last name is? Linus and Lucy's last name?
Van Pelt.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you're a real fan, I see.
I don't know why I remember that, but Linus Van Pelt, Lucy Van Pelt. Yep.
Peppermint Patty.
Yeah. So funny thing, I just a couple of days ago, for some reason, had searched for something online, and I came up with Peppermint Patty, and Peppermint Patty was kind of ahead of her time in the whole gender thing, right? The they them. Peppermint Patty probably would have been a they them, right?
No, I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. No.
Well, because Marcy called Peppermint Patty Sir.
She did.
Yeah. And there was kind of a weird dynamic there. I don't know if weird's not the right word, but there was a dynamic between them.
Yeah.
It was like Marcy was in love with Peppermint Patty, but Peppermint Patty was oblivious.
Peppermint Patty was in love with Charlie Brown.
Right.
So Peppermint Patty was introduced in 1966. So she's not in Charlie Brown Christmas. That came out the year before.
Okay.
That was inspired by his favorite cousin who happened to have peppermint candies in her house. And she lived in, I think, California. The candy Peppermint Patty had been out for 25 years already, but those were only on the East Coast. So he didn't name it after Pepper. I think it's a coincidence. Didn't name it. He wouldn't have known about the candy. And the candy definitely wasn't named after the character because it had already been out. But I think it was a coincidence.
You talking about the York Peppermint Patty?
Yeah, right.
When I bite into a York Peppermint Patty, I get the sensation of, remember those commercials?
Yeah, they have nothing to do with their coincidence.
Character. Huh.
Do you now this is a real deep cut. Do you know what Peppermint Patty's real name was in the character name?
I don't.
Patricia Reichart.
Patricia. Yeah.
And that was actually his secretary's last name was Reichart. He used a lot of the people around him.
Okay.
Her roommate, his secretary's roommate was the model for Marcy. She looked just like Marcy.
Marcy had glasses.
Right. And the running gag early on for like 10 years, the running gag was that Peppermint Patty didn't know that Snoopy was a dog. She thought he was just a funny looking kid with a big nose.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. She would just say stuff like, yeah, you can be on my team. Or, yeah, she would just talk to him like he was a kid.
Yeah, and even like there was a plot where Snoopy went to obedience school and she thought he was like at a school for gifted children or something. She just never got it.
Okay.
And Peppermint Patty also was known for, she got a D- on every school assignment or exam.
Just scraping by.
Right. And there was one episode or a instance where her teacher gave her admittance into the D- Hall of Fame.
Okay. I don't remember that.
So going back to what you're saying before, Peppermint Patty, she shows up in the 60s. She's got sandals. She's got, if you watch the cartoon, she's got a deep voice. She got a best friend who calls her Sir. The LGBT community really took that as what they call queer coding, or, examples of somebody being a part of the community without saying that, right?
Okay.
He never commented one way or the other. He knew about it. He never confirmed or denied it. And that was kind of how he was. His characters didn't have to explain themselves. He wasn't running away from it, but he wasn't running towards it either. He was just it was out there.
Just was what it was.
Yeah.
Kids.
Like I say, a lot of people, there's been, probably dissertations written about how Peppermint Patty is a member of the gay community and all the reasons why. Basically, he drew her as a tomboy who, like you said, was called Sir.
Right.
The idea, though, that calling a woman Sir in the 60s was pretty revolutionary. Just the idea that you could get away with something like that. And again, these are children, and by making them children, it's maybe you can introduce some themes like that if you want to without being so threatening.
Right. Disarms people.
Again, he never really talked about this kind of stuff. So was he a revolutionary progressive, or was he just kind of inadvertently commenting on this stuff? I don't know. He considered Jim Davis his biggest rival in the game. You know who Jim Davis is?
Yeah. Hold on. Jim Davis drew. I know Bill Keane was Family Circus.
Yeah.
Who was Jim Davis?
The Garfield guy.
Garfield. That's it. Thank you.
He was a little jealous. He was his mentor. He was Jim Davis's mentor, but he was also a little jealous when Garfield, like in the 80s, when Garfield kind of made it big and was out earning Peanuts.
Huh.
Little
comic book rivalry.
Yeah, but they, like I said, they were
comic strip rivalry,
mentors and friends and all that kind of stuff. But yeah. So when he died in 2000, there was more than 100 comics that day that made references to Peanuts.
Oh yeah, all the other comic strips made a reference to Sparky.
Yeah, and there's a website that I was looking at today that has where you could just click on it and see the strip for that day. And everyone from BC to Funky Winkerbean to Family Circus to
Dilbert,
Beetle Bailey, and all these. It was crazy. They would just make little references to it. Even, BC or Hagar the Horrible. Even
oh yeah, Hagar the Horrible
was dressed up in like Charlie Brown.
Huh.
He said he came out. You remember those were Vikings?
Yeah,
right?
He had the horns on his head.
So in that one, he came out and he said, "What do you think of my new look?" And he had like Charlie Brown's shirt with the yellow, the stripes. And then the other Viking said, "Good grief."
Oh, wow.
This stuff's not hilarious.
Most of it's not even funny. A lot of it's just sort of like, huh. You just kind of like, huh.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. That's the thing I always think about these comic strips is they're humorous, I suppose, in the broadest sense of the word. I was never a really big, like, funny papers guy,
Well, I think the thing is you become invested in the characters. If you read it every day or every Sunday or whatever, you'd become invested in the characters. And then it didn't have to be funny. It just was kind of like you knew what their tropes were. You knew what they were possibly going to do. And then you saw what they did do. I was like, oh, yeah, I didn't expect that, or I did expect that.
Right.
There were several comics that I read pretty regularly. My grandparents got me a sort of anthology of Family Circus, so I had a lot of those. I
probably
thought they were pretty
least
funny. No,
really?
there was
Kelly.
There was one where
funny.
There was one where you see the mom, the Family Circus mom, and she's looking away from this doorway, and she's got a look of shock, and she's dropped the dishes, like the dishes are falling off of a plate that she was holding. And then in the through the doorway, you see Jeffy coming out, and he says, "Hey everybody, I want to show you my birthday suit." And he's wearing a suit, like he's got a suit that he's going to wear on his birthday. But she thinks birthday suit as in what he was born in and that he walked out naked. No, that's funny.
I can't tell if you're pranking me right now. The only thing less funny than Family Circus is listening to somebody explain Family Circus.
Well, it was called Family Circle originally, and then they had to change it. But Calvin and Hobbes, what did you think of Calvin and Hobbes?
I was never really into that.
But
I know a lot of people were. And The Far Side.
Oh, The Far Side. The Far Side was so good.
Well, you mentioned some of the tropes. We mentioned how those characters kind of a reflection of some of the neuroses that he had. So let's break down some of those. So Charlie Brown was all about kind of rejection and low self-worth, low self-esteem, right? Walking around like just insecure, just openly insecure about everything. Like he was worried about everything, right?
Now, do you think that song by, I don't know if it was the Coasters or the Drifters, but Charlie Brown, Charlie Brown, he's a clown, that Charlie Brown. You know that one?
I think so. Yeah, that was everybody.
Always looking on me.
I don't think that had anything to do with it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what year that song came. I think that was a coincidence.
It was a great song.
Yeah. I don't think the Venn diagram of those two fans even intersect that much from back then.
Okay.
Peanuts was a pretty white bread Midwestern audience kind of comic strip, that song would have been kind of revolutionary. Like I'm sure a lot of the Peanuts fans weren't really into that.
Yeah, I think it's talking about who calls the teacher Daddy-O, and it's Charlie Brown. That Charlie Brown, I guess, had some attitude.
This Charlie Brown did not. He was just a kid running around insecure of himself, but not in a way that a child would be insecure, or even a teenager. More like an adult. An adult, right? These weren't teen angst, right? This wasn't this, and he wasn't even a teenager. He was a kid. He was in touch with his feelings way more than most kids were. So he was substituting for an adult that felt that way, right?
What do you think about him always trying to kick the football?
Well, they asked when Sparky got sick, he had cancer, and when he got sick, they asked him, and he said he was going to hang it up. In fact, the last one was released the day after he died. The timing couldn't have been more perfect, but they asked him, will Charlie finally kick the football? And he said, no, that would be a terrible thing to do to him. Like that would be, kind of against type. But then later on, and at the very, very end, he says, I think it was cruel what I did by not letting him actually get a shot at the football.
Oh, wow.
Linus, remember Linus was really smart.
Yeah. He would give these sort of soliloquies or speeches about things that were like in the Christmas special. He told the whole story of the North Star and the Three Kings and the baby Jesus and all that stuff.
Yeah. In fact, this whole success of that show was kind of odd, that they'd have these long like Bible verses, and it was really like melancholy, kind of sad, and had a jazz soundtrack.
Right.
Like, who would have ever predicted that would have made it? And it was all Sparky. It was all his idea, right? If you ran that through a focus group or a bunch of studio executives, they would have lots of notes about those things, and it wouldn't end up looking like it did. But he just was going to put out what he put out, Can
you name the jazz group that played? The
Vince Guaraldi trio.
Vince Guaraldi,
And Vince Guaraldi was a friend of his, and it was kind of randomly chose him. Like it was not a famous jazz musician; it was a buddy of his.
Well, the Peanuts theme is amazing, right? It is. Yeah. It's one of my favorite pieces of music ever.
Sure. Well, so back to Linus, he was like really intellectual and smart, but he had this crippling anxiety, right? He was probably more anxious than Charlie Brown was. These kids are running around with all these different, like I say, these roaches. Lucy was kind of a very, you'd call it back then, bossy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Some of that stuff maybe doesn't hold up so well. But she was also aggressive. She was like an aggressive woman. She was probably aggressively overcompensating, right? For her, maybe she shouldn't have been as secure as she was. Snoopy, they say, was kind of represented escapist fantasy.
Right.
You know, like Snoopy was the only one that didn't have insecurities, but he also was kind of like not real, right? Like
he was very confident and definitely his little daydreams about being the Red Baron, or his a lot of times the comic strip would just be about some little game he was playing with Woodstock or with himself,
right, and his adventures always seemed kind of independent of all the other kids. They didn't really, except for Charlie Brown, nobody really seemed to know that Snoopy was like a anthropomorphic, right?
Right.
Then you've got Pigpen.
Pigpen.
That's a really big one in terms of that was outward shame, right? He represented outward shame. He was literally, you could see he was wearing his stigma, right? Somebody that carried that around with him. Sparky said about him, he's a human soil bank who raises a cloud of dust on a perfectly clean street and passes out gumdrops that are invariably black. But, he leaned into it, his stigma. He said, I'm proud of these dust particles. They've been around for centuries. He knows he's being laughed at.
Every time you heard him speak, he actually was pretty intelligent and pretty well-spoken. He didn't talk like the sort of slackjaw you expected him to be.
No, he said he knows he's being laughed at, judged, uninvited, but he plays along because he's given up trying to be accepted. That's a pretty advanced theme, right?
Yeah.
To be walking around with like the reason that everybody can see the reason that you're not accepted on you, right?
Did he have a real name?
I don't think so.
Like his name was actually Pigpen. And
then he had Schroeder.
Yeah.
Schroeder's neurosis was obsessive fixation, right? He was just a perfectionist, and he was the one that played the piano.
Yeah, Lucy had a crush on him, but he was totally oblivious to that.
He was like so inwardly focused and like obsessed with certain things, right? These characters had deep issues. Yeah, I just think that's kind of interesting. Like I'd never really thought about it until I prepared for this. And I was like, wow, I just always thought it was this kind of unfunny strip. But the fact that it made such a iconic presence in the 20th century must have been doing something right.
Well, maybe they were relatable. When it came down to it, people could relate to the characters.
His Hollywood star, his Walk of Fame star, is right next to Walt Disney.
Oh, I did not know that.
Did you know that the Apollo 10 command module was named Charlie Brown?
I did know that, yes.
And that the lunar module was named Snoopy?
Yes, I do recall that.
So Sparky also had, I mentioned he had these insecurities. He'd say things like, I'm not a great cartoonist and I'm not a great artist. I'm not a great writer. I'm just good at what I do. And they asked him if he was Charlie Brown. He said, I'm not Charlie Brown. I'm all of them. He talked openly about feeling creatively inadequate, not happy. He said the only time he was ever happy was when he was writing it, drawing it. Other than that, he was never happy. He referred to each blank. He said that, looking at that blank piece of paper every day was a new chance to fail. This is a guy that did 18,000 of these. Wow. And he looked at every one of them as a new chance to fail. And he's bringing in 30-40 million a year of his own money, $1 billion a year. And he's still seeing that as an opportunity to fail.
That's kind of like every new episode of Dirt Nap City for us, right?
Yes. That's how I feel. I see that blank canvas. He said, sometimes I lie awake at night and I think, what have I done wrong? And then a voice says to me, this is going to take more than one night.
Oh,
that sounds like it comes right out of the Linus.
Yeah.
Right? That's Linus's insecurities, right?
Yeah. Oh.
So I read that in 2006, he was the third highest earning dead celebrity.
Okay.
We haven't done this in a while. We did this early on.
Yeah.
I checked the 2024 list of highest earning dead celebrities. All right. So
Is he in the top 10?
he is. He is number 8.
Number 8. Okay.
So this is from last year. He's number 8. And besides him, there are only 3 others that we've done episodes on. And besides him and one other guy, like 7 of them are rock stars.
Ah, okay. Well, Walt Disney, of course.
Nope.
No?
Nope. Now remember, this would be the estate. I think the way they calculate this is like the estate has this much money. So usually this is people being smart with
investments,
their catalog.
Oh yeah, their intellectual property.
Yeah. So maybe Walt Disney, maybe they cashed out a long time ago and they're not still earning money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess.
Like that is different than the Walt Disney Company.
Right. You're talking about the actual individual person's estate.
Right.
Well, who are the others?
Let's go backwards from number 10. Number 10 is one that we did on Dirt Nap City, John Lennon.
Okay. The estate of?
Pretty remarkable though that he died 60 years ago?
45 years ago.
No,
he died in 1980.
Oh, right. But in 15 years, you'll be able to listen to that episode.
Right. Then 60 will be spot on.
Right. Yeah. 45 years ago. Number 9 is Matthew Perry.
How is that even possible?
His Friends brings in so much money.
Wow.
And it probably just all still goes to his, just the syndicated rights. And what is it on? I don't know if it's on Max or Netflix or whatever it is, but it brings in a ton of money. But pretty amazing. And now this isn't since they've died. This is in 2024, how much they made.
How much did Matthew Perry's estate make in 2024? Did it say?
Let's see.
Does it actually have a number?
$18 million.
Wow. Just for doing nothing. Just for being who it is and invested in stuff.
Yeah. Number 8 is Sparky. Number 7, Bob Marley.
Okay. Number
6, Prince.
Okay.
Number 5, somebody who isn't in the same in terms of its catalog, not the same category as Prince or some of these, but invested wisely or sold at the right time. Rick Ocasek from the Cars.
Okay.
Kind of a weird, like if you look at this list, he's kind of the one that doesn't look like he belongs. But maybe Matthew Perry also. Not
as much of a household name, at least maybe for you and I it is, but for most people, I don't think Rick Ocasek is a very household name, very recognizable.
No, lead singer of the Cars, of course, $45 million.
Wow.
Died in 2019. He had a deal with Primary Wave, which is the publishing company that he sold his name, image, and likeness to. Just What I Needed was named one of the 500 greatest songs of all time. He sold 20 million records, but still, I don't think that's a name that we could have sat here all day and not come up with that name, right?
Agreed.
Especially when you consider that number 4 is Elvis.
Wow. Yeah, I don't consider them in the same category, although, but okay.
Number 3, Dr. Seuss.
Okay.
Number 2, Freddie Mercury.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And number 1, making $600 million in 2024, the king of pop, Michael Jackson.
Yeah, of course.
$600 million.
Wow. That's just in not even producing new content.
Also owns Beatles catalog, I think, too. Right?
That was a wise investment.
Yeah, no kidding. They have they're touring. They're making a musical of Michael Jackson in Hamburg, Germany. They're going to open it. Well, I think it's out now. Yeah, I think it's out now. But it pulls in like $6 million a week.
No, so that's going to add to that bottom line.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, Charles M. Schulz, Sparky Schulz. All right, man. Well, I'm glad to share some Snoopy tales with you.
Snoop it out.
Oh, Sparky's pen. They call him Sparky since he was a boy. Drew in the margins, found his own joy. In a world of lines and ink he can fight. A quiet dreamer with nowhere to hide. The little red-haired girl danced in his mind. A love unspoken, a heart undefined. He sketched her smile but never said a word. In his comic world her laugh was heard. Oh, Sparky's pen carved skies in the night. With every stroke he chased the light. In a world of fame his heart stayed true to the love and dreams only he knew. The years rolled by, his comics took flight. A household name under every light. But deep inside the boy still remained, longing for love untouched by fame. Sparky the artist, rich yet shy, wrote his soul with a gentle sigh. In every panel, in every frame, lived the heart of a man who'd never change.